Greetings, greetings, Shquestra, Voices from Wise Women, and my guest, Jamila Cyber Calloway. We are here today
Hey,
to talk about caregiving and transition. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So let me just make sure that I share everything on Facebook, because everybody's like, oh, where do I see it? Where is it at? And so we have to go to Facebook and share. Hold on, everyone. There we go. And let me share some things to some people. All right. So it's all good. One of these days, sometimes you have your things. Sometimes it goes right and sometimes it doesn't.
that's right.
All right. So today, I always pull a card, and the card says, all is well in my world.
Woo!
And Lord, do I need this? And
Woo!
Jamila, we need this today. All is
Yes,
well
yes, yes.
in my world. When we had this discussion today, and it says, everything in my life works now, and everything in my life works now and forevermore. So, yep, all
Mm.
connected. Everything is all well in my world, because today has been already a crazy day, but we're going to talk about that today. We talk about caregiving and transition. So we do our 30 seconds of meditation, bring everybody into the room, clears up everything so we can be focused on what we're going to do, and maybe speak the words that are true to you. All right, so let's do our 30 seconds. All right, we are ready to go.
Woo, girl,
So
thank you for that 30 seconds.
that's what you need, just 30 seconds away, just to bring it on
Yes,
in.
ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am.
tell everybody we're on Earth Mama Network, YouTube. We also Facebook. Share, like, tell everyone about us. We are here every Sunday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Jamila's 3 o'clock on Eastern,
Right.
2 o'clock Central. So please come and join us every week. So Jamila, introduce yourself to the group. Why?
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I'm Jamila Sabir Calloway, a good friend of Shquestra. We've been friends for many years.
long,
And
yeah, almost 30.
yeah,
Well,
and
almost, yeah,
and
30.
yeah, it has
Jesus,
been about 30
30
years.
years.
And
Wow.
so now um we found ourselves both sharing the experience of being caregivers for our mothers. And so we're in constant contact, and we are a support for one another. I just recently retired a couple of years ago, and so now I'm pretty much full-time caregiver for my mom. And I also do Akashic readings, and I'm also a photographer. And my favorite thing to do is just to be with sisters, with healing circles, and sharing healing modalities with each other so that we can continue to grow and to continue to move through the thickness that we all are experiencing right now.
Right, right. Yes, we've done a lot of different healing modalities, sweat lodges, and
Yes,
different kind of experiences and energy work and all that kind of stuff. And we have to
yes,
use almost all of that and bring ourselves,
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
back through this experience that we're having. I just retired last year, end of last year, September. So now I'm doing, full time caregiving, but I'm a little luckier. I have my brother who's here and my daughter, so they're kind of helping as well. My
Yeah.
My brother has had my mother for 6 years, and prior to that, I had her for 7 years. So now we've come together, and we're both
Right.
doing caretaking for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let me just talk a little bit about caretaking. It's not easy.
No.
So anybody who's out there who's caretaking, you want to chime in, please go to the comments and ask questions, or comment on what you're doing in terms of caretaking. We're caretaking to older people. Some people are taking caretaking for younger people and different things that are going on in people's lives. I also want to say we're also a sandwich group, because the baby boomers are now the sandwich group. So we have our parents, ahead of us, they're having issues, and then with what's going on with the COVID and our
Right.
children, whatever,
Our
they're,
children.
they're having issues. So we're like in between, and
Yes.
we're kind of supporting both our children and our parents
Exactly.
at the same time. But sometimes
Exactly.
it's really hard for the baby boomers, because it's like, where do we go? you
Right.
know, because people
Right.
are supporting us the best way they can, but we sometimes need a little more support. So Jamila and I call each other, text each
Mhm.
other all
Yeah.
the time, do Zoom, and we have another friend, Beverly, who's
Yeah.
part of it as well. But what I've learned is that I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it was, but I guess it depends on what's going on with the person. My mother has Alzheimer's, and so now she's moving toward the moderate to the advanced stage of it.
Mm.
And so um, it's really very hard when I'm seeing her go to this different level. And so
Right.
now she's at the point where sometimes she recognizes me, sometimes she doesn't recognize me, sometimes she thinks she's someplace else,
Right.
sometimes she thinks she is with us. And so it just all depends. Sometimes she goes, well, miss, can you tell me, or who's that guy here, or where are we
Right.
living? Sometimes she thinks she is in her house when we're in Illinois, when we're in Arizona. And so we have all these different kind of things that are going on. And so what for me I've learned is patience, compassion, dependability, trustworthiness. I have to take care of our finances, but we're at the point now it's very little finance, because we kind of paid off everything, so we don't have to really worry about that. But just staying on top of everything. Like right before I came out, I heard my brother go, ah, and I'm running out there. What's going on? And she's in the shower. She never gets in the shower by herself. So
Mm.
my daughter had to come in and try to help her in the shower. And she's, oh, I can do it. And it's always like, I can do it, but you're 91, you can hardly walk.
Right.
So you
Right.
can't really
Right.
do it. So I think, Jamila, yours is a little different from mine.
Yeah, it is. And everyone who is listening and anyone in this situation, it's going to always be different, because we're dealing with different personalities, with different
Yeah,
different people who are at different stages of needing care. And
right.
so with my mom, it's more of, short-term memory loss. Um, she has begun to what they call sundowning now, which
Oh
getting
God.
getting
Yeah.
up in the middle of the night, walking around. She had a fall several weeks back, and I heard a thump. I woke up. I have a baby monitor, so I can kind of see in her room. But I
Yeah.
looked, and she wasn't in her room, and I'm like, "Oh my God, where is she?" So I ran, and she was way up front in the living room, which she never goes up there by herself. She didn't have her walker, and when I got to her, because she had fallen, and I got to her, she said, "I'm sorry, I fell down the steps. We don't have steps." So,
Mm,
it's just kind of it's challenging. It's challenging,
mhm,
and somebody, and I am a member uh, a group, a support group, which really is very helpful. And somebody made an analogy in terms of their day. They said it's like Forrest Gump's mom said, it's like a box of chocolates. When you get up, you
mhm.
just never know what you're gonna get.
Right.
And it's the truth. It is the truth. But I
Right.
did find something that was kind of comforting. It's a discipline that I'm trying to stay present with
Hmm.
whatever is in front of me. Um, and if it's really challenging, and I'm going to read this. I got this from a lady. She's a psychotherapist. Her name is Tara Brock, and she calls it the RAIN process. But RAIN stands for recognize, allow,
Hmm.
investigate, and nurture. So first of all, you got to kind of recognize like what's going on. And then as much as
Hmm.
possible, give space to whatever that is, allowing it, in your own psyche too, not being in resistance, you know, unless it's a safety
Right.
issue or something like that. Of course, investigate and see what really is going on, and then let the nurturing kick in, and in terms of
Hmm.
communicating with the person to get out of a situation or to move to another place, or whatever you need to do to help the
Right.
person transition to something that's more comfortable for everybody and safer for everybody. But I just thought that
Right.
those and I'm it's helping me, if I can be present with
Hmm.
it, like, okay, so really what is going on, not just being in resistance and panicking, you know um
Right.
but it's hard. I'm just
It's,
saying
it's
it
it's
is just
very
not
hard.
easy. It's just not easy.
Right. Right.
Um,
I mean, this morning at 3 o'clock, I heard this television on, and I'm thinking, who was? It's not my brother, I don't think. And I went. My mother was dressed completely with her tennis shoes on the side, which I don't know where she's going, her socks and stuff, looking at TV. I said, "Oh, no, 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 no! It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm trying to talk to her softly. I was like, everyone is asleep. You need to put your pajamas on. Go back to bed." What? What? And then the dogs bark, and then my daughter comes. And my brother's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, no, no, no! You got to get back in bed." And the reason we don't just let her just stay there is because it'll trigger her, and she thinks that she's in another time zone, and then it throws her off. So we need her to get back into bed, so then she'll know you need to be sleeping now. So we had to go through all these kind of changes to get her to put her pajamas back on. But when my brother comes, he's 6 something. So when he comes in and he's like, "What?" And then she just like, okay, she will listen to him when she won't listen to me. And have people that they will listen to and people that they
right,
won't listen to.
right,
And
right.
so we finally got her back into bed, and then she didn't wake up until almost 12 o'clock. You see, so everybody else in the house is like exhausted from that whole ordeal,
Exactly,
because my brother never did go back to sleep. I couldn't go back to
exactly,
sleep for a couple of hours, and then the
exactly.
dogs were up and everything. And so this whole thing, it affects not only the person that has the disease or whatever's going
Right.
on with them, it affects the entire
That's right.
household,
That's
as
right.
well. And so one of the things that I'm really looking to is, I'm talking about care. Is find a support group. I keep saying I'm going to do it, but there's so much that's going on. And when you take care of somebody, you are mentally exhausted. I mean,
Yes,
just exhausted.
yes,
And so there's Rose just putting about the Alzheimer's Association. They have a lot of different tips that you can look at in different groups, and also the Department of Aging is really good for people to look to for resources and what have you. But the whole thing is about you staying, like you were saying, Jamila, present, because I do understand now. I said, okay, I understand elder abuse, because sometimes for me, I've been very patient, but I know sometimes people can get very, very upset. And then
right.
from that, different things come from that,
Sure,
because
sure.
they can do things. Like my mother's at the point now, she's becoming very aggressive and combative. So
Yes.
I've been hit. I've
Hmm.
been, hit with a remote. I've had things, cut on me and what have you. But I just pull back, and then my daughter will come in, and then she'll just calm her down, or my brother will come in and calm her down. But that combative kind of thing
Yes.
and that aggressive thing, it really throws you off for a loop. And I remember my daughter would say, "Mom, don't take it personally," but I do take it personally. And
Well,
there
it
have been
hurts.
times
Well, if
when
you
I
get hit,
go,
it hurts, and it
yeah,
kind of,
it
yeah,
hurts more than the physical pain. But why are you doing
emotional.
that to me?
Right, right,
And I've
right.
gone to the bathroom sometimes and just cried and what have
Sure,
you, and
sure.
I give myself 9 seconds to cry and get it together. So I give
Right,
myself that time and just cry, and it's okay. We got to get this together. We got to, this is it. This is what you said you're going to do, and so we're going to get in there and then just do it. Now I'm at the point where, if we wanted to, I think my brother and I could put her in a home, but he really wants to keep her home.
right,
So then we have to figure out, well, how can we do that and we be safe and also do self-care for
right.
ourselves as well?
Well, that came up with me because at one point, mom's been with me a little bit more than 2 years now. And so when she first got down here, I was working actually when she first came, and I had somebody coming in for several hours a week. That really, really helped me.
Okay.
And she went to daycare twice a week,
Right. Mm-hmm.
which was wonderful. But now with COVID,
Right.
girl, I am just squeamish. I don't, you know, I, people who come in, um, I know there's screening and all of that, but I'm just taking a lot of precautions right now. So right now it's just me.
Okay.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. She had a
Right.
serious about 2 months ago. She had a serious arthritic attack and was in a lot of pain. So I did have to get some extra help for her, which I did. That was because of
Mm-hmm.
her situation. But now that she's gotten a
Right.
lot better, I'm kind of weaning people off. I had a nurse come in at
Mhm.
one point. She did some physical therapy, which really was good and got her back on her
Right.
feet. But I'm erring on the side of caution right now. It's just scary. I don't know. I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. I don't know if I'm going to get some extra help in. I could use it. Um, so again,
Right.
these are moment by moment decisions, and everybody has to kind of do what's best for them in their situation.
Exactly. Exactly.
So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think
Yeah.
a lot of it is I'm actually in the process of mourning, like mourning her
Mm-hmm.
loss. Like
Right.
she's not you know Mama Sally.
Oh
Mama
yeah. Oh
Sally
my
used to
God.
she used to do the African dance, and she was very lively and
Great
everything.
storyteller.
And
Yep.
just
Great.
yeah, and but
Mm-hmm.
now, because she's so introverted now and
Right.
the apathy is really she don't care. And I'm like,
Mhm.
"You don't care?"
Right. Right.
And so a lot of my process, emotional process, is just mourning the loss of the mother that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she's here in her body, things are changing, and it's quite a challenge on me. So sometimes I let myself be sad about that, and actually go ahead
Yeah.
and begin to, just process my loss.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many layers to this. I'm
Oh
really
my God.
looking at myself, trying to really do what's best for me at the same time, um, you know, serving her to the best of my ability. I remember
Right.
I used to remember the Four Agreements by
Right. Mm-hmm.
remember the Four Agreements? Well,
Don.
Don
Why can't I
Ruiz,
think of Don? Don
was it
Louise. Is it Miguel or?
Miguel Ruiz, I
Okay.
think. Yeah.
Okay.
And the one that I'm really leaning in on is always do your best. It's like,
Mm.
you know, after having a really, really difficult day, asking
Mm-hmm.
myself and really leaning into, okay, Jamila, it was challenging. Did you do
Right.
your best? And I did. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I
Right.
always do. That's my mother. I'm doing the
Right.
best I can. I'm
Right.
flipping and flopping through this thing, but I'm still, doing my best. So instead of beating myself up, because I don't know, I'm like, we laugh at it sometimes, me and my mom. And I told her, I said, look, you
Mm-hmm.
got me. I'm an only child. I said, you got me.
Right.
I'm not even the nurse type. So I'm like, this is, I mean, it's the luck of the draw. But, I mean, I
Right.
love you and I'm doing the best I can. But it takes skill to do this, you
It does.
know, and I compensate for what I don't have in skill with love,
Mm.
and sometimes that has not been enough for me because I've been beating
Mm-hmm.
myself up, like shoulda, woulda, coulda, and
Right.
just not knowing and being frustrated at what is the best way to handle this situation. And
Right.
sometimes I just don't know.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. I was talking to my her physician about it, and he was just like, "Oh my God, that's really great. Now you're here with your brother, and you're taking care of your mother." He's like, "I just put my loved ones in the home." And then the nurse that came in, she's like, "Oh yeah, my father's in the home," and they're looking at me like, "Wow, like you all really doing good," because they're like, "We ain't doing it. It ain't
I
even
get a
happening," and
I
they're
get a lot of that.
professionals. You
I get a
know,
lot of that. I get a lot of
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I do.
and they're professionals, and they're like, "We're not doing that. It's not even happening."
Right,
You know,
right,
and so I just do the best that I can and want her quality of life to
right.
be happy. For,
Exactly,
but
exactly.
sometimes it's really funny. I mean, we laugh hysterically because sometimes their mind, and I realize that my mother's brain is decaying and dying, and so she
Mhm.
comes up with these stories. The day she was like, "Oh my," she was laughing hysterically. I said, "Well, what's so funny?" And she was like, "Oh, I remember the day we found a head, in a box at the bus stop."
Oh
And I'm like,
gosh.
"Mom, you saw a head in a box at the bus stop." She's like, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, did you call the police or whatever?" She's like, "No, no, no. When the bus came, we just got on the bus." And I'm like, "I've never, ever heard a story about that." So I know it didn't exist, but sometimes they have these
Right.
hallucinations, or they come
Yeah,
up with these things, or she was talking about her office, and I'm like, "She never had an office."
right,
And so they come up with these stories sometimes,
right.
and you just let them go through the whole thing, and you just be like, "Wow, that's interesting,"
That's
but it
so
didn't
true. That's
happen.
so true. I know.
You
I let my mom, my mother's United Methodist in her church in Washington D.C. actually
Mhm.
live stream the services.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
really great because she can sit down in her easy chair at whatever time, on
Mhm.
Sundays and look at
Okay.
church, and
Right.
she knows the people, she knows the minister, and she's
Okay.
familiar with the service. I even got the hymnal and everything, for her.
Right.
And I remember her talking to one of my uncles one time, and she was like, "Yeah, uh-huh, yeah, I'm doing really good. I go to church. I go." I'm like, "No, she does not go to church," but she thinks she goes to church, so
Right,
she goes
right,
to
right.
church. And I remember one time one of my girlfriends took put her in a wheelchair and rolled her up because I live in Chapel Hill, and I'm not too far from downtown. So she took her up, and they had ice cream and went to the art museum and
Mhm.
everything. And she was in her wheelchair and everything.
Right.
And I had someone else come in subsequent to help out one day, and she swore she walked
Mhm.
downtown. She didn't remember that somebody had rolled her, and she gave this other person the blues because she was like, "No, I can walk. I can walk." She said, "Miss
Mhm.
Sally, I think but maybe we need to get in the wheelchair." "No, I
Right,
walked before. I can walk."
right. Mhm, mhm.
So it's like they kind of get mixed up sometimes,
Exactly. And for
but
people that
you do
take
the
care.
best you can.
Right, and I like that you said about the church. Like we've done, we've recorded. Like my mother would listen to Madeira, right? So we've recorded
Yeah.
those things, and we can play those. And because her memory is, she can't remember, so you can play it the next day, and she won't even know that
And
she had
she'll
saw
still
it
have a good
before.
time with it. Yeah.
But she has
Yeah.
a good time, and she laughs and whatever. We're
Yeah.
like, fine. My
Yeah.
brother's like, "Oh my God, if I see that one more time, I'm gonna hurt somebody." I'm like, "That's what she wants to look at. We just gonna
That's
let her
right.
look at it,
That's
and
right.
she's happy, and then we can do whatever it is we're trying to do, and it keeps her occupied." We have
And
the
the other
newspaper. She reads the newspaper. Now, what she reads, I don't think she can really read it, but she goes through the newspaper
right.
every day, and the fun baby. So there's little things that you have to do. She likes Law and Order, so you have to kind of look at what they like, and then those are the kind of things you kind of move them toward when you see them going toward another direction
Exactly.
and something else is going on. Well, let's look at this,
That's
or
right.
let's look at that, or we sit
And
there with a.
with
Mhm.
my mom, it's jazz, anything
Okay.
jazz, old school jazz,
Okay.
and I mean, she loves it. She is in her bliss when she's sitting there and listening to jazz music. So,
Okay.
YouTube is
Okay.
my best friend, and
Oh, okay.
I just let her roll because she has a huge jazz album collection. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I just pull from memory and I have it. I did not let that go from DC. I
Okay.
brought that down to Chapel Hill with me. It's in storage.
Right.
Um, um, it's my intention to really, bring it in the house and have it a viable access. But YouTube has everything. YouTube
Yeah.
has all of that on it, so
Right.
it makes
Right.
it
Right.
convenient, and I love it when I go in there and her head's bopping and her little feet are going.
Then you know, okay, then good,
She's
good, good.
having a good time. Yep,
That's right. That's right.
yep.
Yeah. So anybody got any comments on that? Please, please come. Now, what my mother is at this point, she's doing memory loss, difficult planning things, her tasks. She's having problems with that, confused about time and place, challenging. She's doing pretty good with her speaking. Her writing is not like when she's trying to find out how old she is. She'll do 2020 and 1929 and has a problem trying to do that. So certain things I can see that she's kind of advancing
Right,
in her dis-ease, and so that's where I think when the next day comes with the aggression and the anger, and I think a lot of that um, anger comes from her just not being able to do what she wants to do in terms of thinking
right,
cognitively, and so she
right.
gets real angry about that, and and I and she doesn't know how to voice that. Like a lot of times she's doing a lot of humming, so a lot of times I've read about the humming will be them trying to communicate but just don't know how. So I hear going,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
sometimes that humming could be like, oh God, I'm going to lose my mind if she doesn't stop humming. But I know it's a way of her in terms of
Right.
communication.
Yeah,
So I just
yeah,
got to pull back
yeah.
on that. But these are all these different things that you really don't know about until you get into that experience, and then you find those different things out.
I remember mom being hospitalized. This is when she still lived in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And I went up and she was really sick. And that's the first time that I really had a clue that the dementia was kicking in because she was so
Um,
aggressive toward me. It just hurt
okay.
my feelings so bad. She was
Mm-hmm.
just mean. And I'm thinking, I'm the only one doing anything for you. Why are you
Right,
beating
right,
me up?
right,
Why are you
right,
mad at me?
right.
Um, and that's when I started looking into trying to find out where was her money, what was she doing, was she paying her bills?
Right.
She was living in a large apartment complex for the elderly there in DC. It was
Okay.
um, not assisted living, but independent living,
Oh,
but it was for
right,
the
right.
elderly.
Senior housing.
Yeah, but things were slipping. And so at that point,
Okay.
I started to inject myself into trying to um, find out what was going on with her finances and everything.
Mhm.
I got her I got put on her um, checking account,
Right.
um,
Mhm.
so that it was a joint account versus
Right,
just her.
right.
Um,
Mhm.
and so it was slow but sure. The process over the years got to the point where I was doing everything,
Right.
and then had to get the durable power of attorney and the healthcare power of
Mhm.
attorney.
Right.
These are really important documents
Yes.
that you need to do, and it depends on your jurisdiction. Because of course, I had all that stuff done up in DC, and now that she lives here in North Carolina, I've got to redo everything, including the
Mm.
will, you know, just to make
Okay.
sure, because the states are different. They have different laws, they have different things
Okay.
that,
I'm gonna have to
govern
do
those
that about
kinds
the
of
power of
things.
health. I'm gonna have to do that. Yeah, with the power of health. I'm gonna have to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Because
because I
most
mean,
of
I
the
have
the
the
doctor says,
documents. It's
yeah,
just that the states, they differ. Sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it can
right,
be a drastic change in terms of what you can do, what you can't do, and what you're
right,
liable for, what you're not liable for, that kind of thing. So,
right. Right. And I
you
think
know,
you have to be very careful about signing things. Sometimes people have gotten into some serious trouble about signing things, and then instead of going to your mother, it becomes you. And a
yes,
lot of times when the person makes their transition, you say the person made a transition, then it's okay. But if you sign it, then it's on you versus her
right,
making her transition. So we have to be very careful. I think people need to, I think AARP and different places have um, seminars where you can go and learn about these different things, especially when you're talking about caregiving. Because a friend of mine said she remembers when her father was very sick and they kept wanting her to sign something at the hospital and she wouldn't sign it. She was like, no, I'm not going to sign. My father's still Bible, whatever. And she didn't. And so when her father made a transition, then they weren't able, they were going to try to come to her, but she had never signed anything. So they said, well, okay, he's made his transition, nothing we can really do. And if he doesn't have anything really in his estate, there's nothing we can do anything. And I think people need to know a lot of times when people are hospitalized, a lot of times the hospitals, if you go to the social worker and tell them what's going on, the hospital will write it off. But you have to go and talk to the social workers.
Right.
Doctors don't want to use it. It's hard as hell to get the doctors to write off anything. But a lot of times your hospitalization can be written off if you go to the social worker. So it's really always good to know who the social worker is or who the person who's connected with your doctor, because that's how we got her DNR done and power of health. And it's important to know about the power of health, because if you don't have that and there's something going on with the person, the doctor won't tell you because of HIPAA law. So it's
Exactly.
important to make sure that you have that power of health. And so I
Yeah.
have myself and my brother on it, so we can go at any time and then find out
Right.
what's going
And they
on.
can tell you anything. Even
Yeah.
insurance companies, even the
Hmm.
insurance, you have to have it.
Hmm.
Like if I call a Blue Cross Blue Shield about
Yes.
her coverage or something wacky going on,
Yeah.
um, if I didn't have that power of attorney for health, they would not discuss it with
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. In fact, I'm
So
going to thinking about one of her investments with that, because I don't have that
yeah,
and I can't find the power of attorney. It was
right.
in a trust, and I think she might have taken it out and destroyed it. So now I got to figure out. And when someone has Alzheimer's or something, it's hard to get that power of attorney, because then they'll say, "Well, then you're getting it because this person has
Yeah, and they
has
don't have.
that."
Well,
So now I
I
got to
went
deal with.
ahead. Yeah, and I'm hoping, and because I don't know, again, because I have a durable power of attorney. That's all her banking and all that kind of
Okay,
stuff.
right.
And I have the power of attorney for the health, the
Okay.
healthcare power of attorney, two different things.
Yes. Yes.
So when you have one, really need to have both of them.
Right. And I
You
had
really need
both,
to
but
have
now I
both.
got to go through all her trust stuff to see what's in there, because they said it should
Right.
be in there, but I'm not seeing it. But see, when we first did the trust, she had it, because she said something's going on. I just want to set this up, so she had everything. And then when we got ready to move her here, she went through a lot of things, and Lord, I'm still
I
trying to
know.
go through that. So it's important when you see something going on with your loved one that you start having these discussions with them. A lot of times they're like, "Well, I don't know, I know whatever." But with me, my mother, we were driving to a car rental place, and my daughter and I were in one car, she was in the other car, and she knew where we were going to meet her. And she was in front of us, and all of a sudden she kind of like turned off this strange street. We were like, "Where is she going?" And then she came, finally got there, and we were like, "Where have you been?" And she's like, "I don't know." She said, "I was driving, and all of a sudden I just woke up on the freeway, at the freeway." She said, as soon as we got to the house, she said, no, as soon as she got it, she got out the car, gave us the keys, and said, "I don't want to drive anymore. Something's going on." So we were very lucky with her being cognizant that something was going on, and she didn't want to drive anymore. Somebody says healing circles help release pain. Oh, what is the breaking point? Oh, wait a minute. Healing circle deal with how to release pain and energy and moving forward in life, being fruitful. Trauma bonds. Say bonds really deal with releasing pain and more focus on release. Yeah, yeah. So healing circles.
Reliving
You
pain.
know what? We definitely need to have a healing circles for caregivers. That's. And I
Most
was thinking about that
definitely.
today. We
Yeah,
definitely need to do that.
most
And
definitely.
when's the breaking point when a home will be the only option? You know what? It all depends. But my
That's
grandmother's
true.
case, my grandmother was taking care of my great grandmother, and she started getting so stressed that the doctor said, "This is what's going to happen. You're going to have to put her in a home, or you're going to be in a home. So you
Right.
need to make a decision," because it was so stressful. For me, it's very stressful, but I got with herbologist who I'm going to have on next week, and she gave me some anti-stress tinctures to take and some anti-stress herbs that I'm taking that have really brought my pressure down and keeps me really cool. And so now um, I'm able to deal with her more than I have been. But I guess it just depends.
Yeah.
Some people just wake up one day and say, "I just can't take it anymore." But see, but now with the COVID, you really can't do anything. It doesn't
Yeah.
even matter if I wanted to, because the nursing homes, like, you can't even visit nursing home, let
Right.
alone have someone go there.
Well,
So
that's the scary thing about this COVID thing. Even when my mom had that healing crisis couple months back, COVID was here, and I was like, you know what, we gonna deal with this in the house. That's why I had a nurse
yeah,
come to the house,
right,
versus because if we take it to the hospital, she gone. I mean, when I say she gone, I mean you don't have access to her. You don't
Yep.
know what the doctors are doing. You don't know, you know what I'm saying? You're at their mercy.
Right.
And um it's really makes it very difficult. I know when she was in the hospital before up in DC,
Right.
I wasn't there for her advocate. I mean, they were literally unplugging stuff, and she really needed help. She needed
Mm.
nutrition and everything. And I'm like, what's going on? And they were basically saying, well, if she won't eat, she's gonna die. And I'm
Wow.
like, but you need to help her with the nutrition
Right.
issues. Why are you
Right.
not giving her this nutritious intravenously? And it's
Right.
all about the dollar bill. So, I mean,
Yep.
even though she had insurance, they were writing her off. I just
Right.
know energetically they were just writing her off.
Right.
So
Right.
I was just talking to her and I was like, "Ma, you ready to go?" You know, having that hard conversation with her. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
okay. I'll be
Mm.
fine if you are ready to go. And then I said, "Now I ain't gonna help you go nowhere." And then at this point, she kind of looked. She was kind of,
In and out.
in and out. But when I
Hmm.
said, I'm not gonna help you look, go
Right.
nowhere, she kind of smiled, and I was like, she in there. She's in
Okay.
there, and she was hearing me and she was communicating. And actually it was my
Okay.
naturopath, Pat Crisp. I'll never forget it. She was calling me back and forth from DC,
Okay.
checking in. And she asked me if I had had the conversation with my mom. I said, no,
That's
I haven't. She
important.
said, you need to ask her. You
Yep.
need to have the conversation. I'm so glad she did. Because at that point, I let my mom know you still have choice in this.
Yes.
People are punching you and shooting you up and turning you and twisting you and
Right.
poking you, but you still have choice. You are still at choice. You still here.
Yep.
So, what we gonna do here? We gonna fight or what we gonna do?
Yep.
And she got better. I went home and I would just cook a meal like string beans and
Hmm.
potatoes and corn or whatever. Then I'd put it in NutriBullet and and liquefy it.
Okay.
But I would but it would taste because I would season it just like it was regular, you know? And then I would go ahead and she was eating that because that
Hmm.
hospital food, she was not having it. And so little by little, she got stronger.
Okay.
And but you have to be there for as an advocate.
Right.
And
That's it.
I was thinking, I can't let you just go, to the
Right.
hospital. I just couldn't do that,
Right.
so
So someone asked, what do you do for self-care to keep you on even keel? Like for me, because I have other people in the house, I'm able to say, you know what, I'm going in my room and I will shut the door like I did yesterday. I really didn't feel well. And I shut the door and just laid and looked at I don't know, some kind of cooking show and just laid, for the whole day and just relaxed. And then later took a nap and what have you. So I'm able to do that because I don't really go out as much as I should because of the COVID, and I don't want to bring anything back into the house. So I
right.
kind of, do that. And just my room is like my sanctuary, so that's what I do. So what do you do, Jamila? Because it's just you.
Well, I actually, because mom doesn't get up until around noon or a little after noon. Like
Okay.
she sleeps in late, which is good
Okay.
for me. So I get up early and I
Okay.
have a walking partner and I have a
Okay.
trail that's not far from here. And I will get up and I will go out and I will walk. It's in nature, it has a
Mhm.
little creek and stuff. And sometimes I just sit there on a rock and listen to the creek and everything. Just kind of I feel like it's something that I do for myself.
Right.
Um, and then, from time to time, I take Queen's baths. Not enough. When I say Queen's baths, I mean, light my
Mhm.
candles, go in, put
Right.
a little lavender. I don't do it as
Hmm.
often as I should,
Right.
um, or as I could. And I plan to do more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, that bath
Um,
really helps. It does, and you go to sleep. Oh my God, it's just so good. And I'm taking the melatonin as well, and I got these anti-stress herbs, so I take that, and I also do some CBD sometimes. But we're dropping that, and then I can sleep real well.
right,
But I do have to listen out for when she
right.
gets to moving,
Exactly.
and
Me
so
too.
sometimes she'll sleep all night,
So I don't
and
really
then
sleep
sometimes they won't.
soundly, I mean, I don't know if
Right, exactly.
I don't know if I hit that, deep sleep realm or not. Because I sleep
Right.
lightly because like I said, I have that monitor and I can see her.
Hmm.
I don't get up now. I used to just get up every time she got up and, but
Right.
she can go to the bedside commode by herself and that kind of thing,
Right.
so if she's piddling in her room, I let her. But
Okay.
I'm still not going right back to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm still
Right.
hearing
Right.
her. I still can hear the rustling. So I'm definitely sleep broken.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Taking naps during the day is just not something that I have done.
Mhm.
I probably could, but you know,
I think sometimes
that's
I've
the
taken
thing
a
I
nap.
want to talk about is guilt.
Oh
You
God.
know, like
Yes.
taking a nap, it's like, okay, all right, I got all this long list of stuff to do.
Mhm.
How am I going to sit down and just but I should prioritize myself at the top of the list of my to-do list. It's just been difficult for me to do it. Um,
Right.
even though I know I need it. I really do because
And I think we do feel guilty. I
yeah,
feel guilty. I'm like, I shouldn't have yelled at her. Like, what are you doing? Why is it taking so? Uh,
right,
those kinds of things, and we have to. I have to deal with that. And so I'm doing. And I said to myself, first, you're doing the best that you could because I know if she had been in the home, she probably would be gone by now.
yeah,
You know, she
yeah,
probably would. Oh, so what are your plans regarding transition? If it were happen during this pandemic and the many limitations that occurred. And that's what we want to talk about next. So this is
right. Yes,
a
it
great
is.
transition into talking about transition.
Right, right.
I think what we have to do, especially in African American communities, talk about transitioning and what that looks like and what do you want for your final burial or what else is what do you want to what dress do you want what picture because if I see one more picture of somebody that looked like they was 93 and the picture was they were 16 I'm gonna scream what picture do you want what dress do you want I remember my family was a big thing about when my aunt died my cousin said he thought he was gonna lose his mind his sisters kept going back and forth about the dress and he was like God damn it would you just find a dress so we can bury her this is making me crazy so I think we have to talk about the dress, where you want to go. When my grandmother made her transition, she had paid for everything, dress, everything. Took her body there, and they just went ahead and just did, what they needed to do. When my father wanted to be cremated, he said, do not. I will come back and I will hurt somebody. I do not want a lot of money spent on me. So what I want is I just want the family and I want to be cremated. And so we had my father cremated and they wrapped him just like a mummy. It was unbelievable. And then we had the family come over to the house, just rented some chairs, and then we played all the jazz music and all the videotapes that he had taken of us as a child and the whole family and we
Right,
played that during the whole thing we did some poetry and stuff so everybody you just have to
right.
let people know what is it that you want to
Well, I'm gonna
go
tell you, my mom has paid for everything. This is all in DC though, because when she did this, she was, an older adult, but she paid for everything. She's got her
Mhm.
plot and everything, and she's even
Right.
paid for the opening and closing. So
Wow.
my and I'm thinking through it because I haven't made a decision yet. But my thinking is to get her back to DC and bury her there because everything's
Oh,
paid for and
that's
paid for. Have her insurance pay for that whatever that transportation will look like.
right.
Um, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's something that I need to do. Just call
Oh
funeral
yeah.
homes and
Mhm.
to find out what manage expectations in terms of what that cost would look like and everything. She's let me know she does not want to be cremated. She wants to
Okay.
be buried, and so
Okay.
that's what we're going to do. Um, and the other thing that I did was make sure that she still is what they call it, tithing her church,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
so that because she was very active in her church, and
Okay.
so that they can see that she's still a member, probably have a
Okay.
memorial service
Okay.
at her church
Hmm.
at that time. But I think I want to do everything in DC. Right now, that's my thinking. But to answer the question, she took care of everything. Everything is paid in full.
Hmm.
I have those papers. I do know where they are. I
Right.
can put my hands on those papers and
Right.
you know,
Now I had a friend who was just made his transition because of COVID, and they did. a service and it was streaming. So we were able to see, the service that they had for him because he
Right,
was asking about COVID because it's a little different because you can't have
right,
all those people there and what have you. But we're going to
right.
just cremate my father. But what I do, my brother said he's decided he would take my mother's ashes when she makes her transition and my father's and take them back to Chicago
Yeah,
and then we'll release them in the
right,
water
right,
in Lake Michigan because that
right.
they love Chicago and whatever. I
Sure,
told them,
sure.
do not take me back there. I want to be Pacific because I love California.
Oh,
So
yeah,
she's
definitely.
back there. But I
Mhm.
told him 40 days because they said that the spirit is still around for 40 days, so it would have to
Right,
be after 40 days.
right.
And then I started thinking, I said, is that why it takes black people so long to get in the ground? Is it because of the whole thing about this? Because a lot of times we do things and don't understand like why we
That's
do
true.
them. But
Yeah.
so I was thinking, wow. So it says 40 days that the spirit is still around. And after that,
Mhm,
then the spirit is being, released. So I just told my
mhm.
daughter for 40 days and they would have to hold on to me. And then after that, she could take me to it could be
But
Venice from Santa
the
Monica, whatever.
ocean.
Just
Yeah,
release me, there. And so
yeah.
so I think we just have to let people know what you want. And also talk about what did I talk about? Oh, full moon. I said make sure it's a full moon
Mhm.
because that's when you release things on a
Right,
full
right.
moon. And I think when we have loved ones, we have to sometimes I think they are staying here because we are holding on to them and so I think I've had that conversation with my mother that if and my brother has had that conversation too, if you feel like it is time for you to transition, you can do that and not have to worry about us because I think sometimes
Right.
people do. I took it, and
They hold on because they think, yeah, that's true.
my father was at his deathbed and he kept saying something to my mother. And when we found out later, when she kept going over, he was saying, fix the furnace because he knew something was at the furnace. And she was like, don't worry about the furnace. It's
Right,
okay.
right,
And we found, I think she told him, oh, the furnace been fixed. And right after that, he made his transition.
right,
Well, like
right,
he's holding on to make sure the furnace gets fixed so she
right,
will have
right,
heat in the house.
right,
So there's just
right.
different things that people
Mhm.
have. And I think you have to have these conversations. I know my granddaughter, I already know India's just like going to lose her mind for Stephanie. I know I have to go to India. I'm going to have to do something with her. So you just have to prepare because, and it's like, oh, you want to talk about it. You just have to prepare them because
Right,
we are all going to make our transition at some
right,
time in our
right,
lives. And
right.
so we want it to be what we want it to be in terms of us moving on. And so I think it's great to have that discussion and talk about transition or celebration. Some people have home
Mhm.
celebration, but now with the COVID, you have to do it a little different. But I think it's important to do that. And I have
Right.
a website up there that talks about transition to death, and they have all these little questionnaires you can take and little things to think about because a lot of things you don't even think about.
That's
I
true.
think it was easier for me because my father was not being buried; he was just being cremated. But I know you have to think about the suits, and people talk about underwear and all these different
Yeah,
kind of things. And
yeah,
I'm thinking, oh my God, you have to have all that when someone and their hair. And I remember
right.
my grandmother. They asked about her nails, and they said, "Do we really paint her nails?" And we did. And I don't think my grandmother really wore her nails painted. So everyone in the family came back and goes, God, her nails look so beautiful. So that's what they noticed out of everything with the nails. But all those things, I think we have to talk about those things.
Yeah, 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 we do. We do. It's important. And then, and thinking about all of this stuff is just getting all the paperwork in order.
Oh my
Like
God,
the
yeah,
insurance policies and everything. And so I've made a cheat sheet, for
okay,
myself. I'm doing stuff for my mother, but I'm also doing it for myself.
yeah, right.
All of my insurances, making it easy for anybody that would come behind me to
Right.
find what they need, have
Yeah,
everything summarized on one page and then have the files behind it, that kind of thing. Just organizing it to make everything easy.
yeah. I
So
have all mine in
that's
one
something
like
to think
packet
about.
with all my personal stuff. It's just in one little container.
Right.
Open it up,
Right.
everything's there. So,
Hmm.
Stephanie knows my passwords and what have you and
Yep.
what
Yep.
have you. So those kind of things. But I want to tell people that if you're a caregiver, you want to seek out support. I think if you can do counseling, I don't have a counselor right now. I need to get back into counseling. I think counseling really helps, especially when you're talking
Yeah.
about guilt and what have
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Department of Aging, and every city has a Department of Aging that provides a lot of resources. You talked about the daycare center for your mother, and now with COVID, that daycare center is not
Right. They're
operational.
doing a virtual though. They do
Oh,
virtual. They have a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning where they, and it's so wonderful. My mother loves
oh
it.
my
And
God.
then another one in the afternoon at 2 o'clock, and it's for an hour. But they see
Huh.
each other, because
Okay.
those are her friends. So in the
Right.
Zoom, it's a Zoom meeting, and they see each other, and like they've done a lot of different programs. Like they one time they had one on Nina Simone, and took us on a tour of where she lived and everything.
Oh my
They've
goodness.
done one on Satchmo, Louis
Right.
Armstrong, a lot of music, a lot of art, but they bring in things. And so it's called Charles House here in Chapel Hill. I just loved it. And they do that for the people who were participating in their program. So
Okay.
that makes it really, really nice. Yeah.
Oh wow. That is
Yeah.
that's really good. That's really
Yeah.
good to do that. And
Yeah.
you know what? My mother, and I think when you have a senior, if you can get them out and get them active, it really stimulates their brain and what have you. I just really couldn't get my mother out into that. And I think as I'm thinking back, I'm thinking maybe she was going into some kind of depression, because she
Mm,
kind of withdrew and didn't want to go out. And so I
right.
did start thinking back to when I was very, very young. Something happened. I don't remember. And I remember my father saying to her, you have to be real quiet. Your mother's not feeling well. And I remember she was taking some kind of medicine. And I was thinking, I don't know what that was for. And I'm thinking, well, okay. And it was after my last brother. So did she have postpartum? I mean, so it's all kind of things that you don't
Right.
know about your mother and what have
That's
you. And so
true.
maybe that might have been,
Well,
part of it as
this
well.
this is a good question here with dementia and Alzheimer happening to a loved one. When is a good time to start and have the conversation on transition plans? Right now.
Yep.
Do not delay. There's
Right.
no perfect time. You start seeing things slip, start
Yep.
having the discussion. Just period.
Mm,
Um,
yep.
you know, um, just take your dose of courage and dive
Mhm.
in, because it is these are difficult conversations,
Yep.
and you may have to go more than one time. I mean, you might
Oh
have
yeah.
to just
Oh
kind
yeah.
of approach and reapproach, and because people might not feel like talking about it, but
Right.
stay at it. And the perfect time is right here, right now. You know, and I'm glad you
Yep.
mentioned psychotherapist. I don't know what I would do without my psychotherapist. Yes, I have a psychotherapist, and it really helps me.
Mhm.
Like you said, talking about the guilt and my self care and all that. Just kind of keeping me front and center here.
Right.
As
And
they
it
say, keeping the main thing the main
that
thing.
self care is so important because, not too long ago, my pressure was so high, and I think, I was just tired and just overwhelmed and all of that, and so it is important that you take care of that self, and it's easier said than done because most of the time you're just so tired. And like I said, Jamila and I text back and forth, and I'm like, okay, checking in, y'all okay? What's going on?
That's right.
And we're like,
Yeah.
oh Lord, and then we start, our war stories. We share them back and forth, and then we laugh about it. But you got to
Yeah.
have a support group. You got to have somebody you can talk to, somebody you
Yeah.
can call at a minute notice, because sometimes you're on the edge.
That's
You're
right.
really on the edge
That's
with
right.
that. And then like all of a sudden, like certain things my mother won't eat. I don't know about your mother, Jamila, but it's like something with broccoli. She's, cutting off all these broccoli. And then I gave her some small potatoes and she said, I've never had those before. And I'm like, these are small potatoes. I've never seen these. My brother's like, what the hell? So it's just like, okay, then. So, the food choices are changing. You see a change in consonant, just all kinds of things. But my mother will wear her earrings every day,
Yes.
and she will get
Mine
her
too.
rings and her bracelets.
Yeah, no, I make sure mom has on her earrings. She got on her nice little dress or top and pants or
Mhm,
whatever, you
mhm,
know what I'm
mhm.
saying? No, we
Yep,
keep it because Miss Sally, she always looked nice. And so
that's
we keep that going. We definitely
right,
keep that going. It's
right,
important.
right. And so I think, let me see with some list of some of the things. So if you have a person who's memory loss, difficult with the planning, their tasks you're seeing are a little off, seem confused sometimes, not understanding certain things, poor judgment. You want to get right on that. I was lucky because my mother did say something was going on. I think we need to
Right,
start. Yeah, I mean, put you on my account and stuff like that. So that made it a little easier. A lot of times you don't see that.
right. That's true.
So you have to go by and just be like, okay, I'm thinking I need to help you. you know. Yeah, here's someone memory loss, difficulty. Yeah, she's putting Rose putting it up. Thank you, because that's so important to do that, and then having
Another
those conversations.
another thing too, in addition to what Ro has
Mhm,
listed here is like if somebody was a very neat person and you come in and everything is
mhm,
disheveled and everything is just, clutter everywhere, those are
right.
signs. It's like something different here,
Mhm,
those are telltale signs,
right.
of something different happening.
Mhm,
And again, it
mhm,
can be subtle. It can be subtle, but it's just important to pay attention and to have the conversation. I
yeah.
actually took my mom to have a cognitive test,
Mhm.
the one that the president was bragging about.
Lord, bragging about right, really?
When he, I'm just saying, because when
Mhm.
when he was talking about the questions, I was like, oh, that's when I took mom to get,
That's exactly what I said. I said, "Wait a minute, this is
so
around the clock. Wait a minute, my mother
anyway,
just did this."
but we did, and she was slipping, she did, and
Mhm,
so we have a baseline, you know what I'm saying,
mhm,
um,
right,
in terms of her progression and stuff, so it can be measured, so um, yeah, just being vigilant, doing the best you can, letting yourself off the hook,
yeah,
reaching out to others to get help. I'm telling you, support groups are wonderful because
mhm,
they do understand.
right.
Um, you
And they're
you have
online. We have online groups too.
Yeah, yeah, they
Mhm,
do. So just reach out and ask for help. And my prayer is that everybody that needs help will get help.
yep, yep, yep. That's important. Well, Jamila, do we have any parting words?
Well, I really appreciate you letting me come on today. I'm taking care of my mom, and I think it's the most important thing I can be doing right now. So I'm
Mhm,
grateful for the opportunity to be able to do that, and at the same time, I'm also grateful for the fact that I do have help and support,
mhm,
and I'm reaching out for that. So I just
mhm,
enjoin anyone who's in this situation to reach out and to get support, even if it's
right,
just the best friend. Um, you know, help
mhm,
yourself.
right.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think for me, like you were saying, take it. Don't that guilt can you really want to deal with the guilt. And if you're working, try to find a daycare, a
Yes.
senior daycare or something, or someone that can come in. There's resources out there that can help you. I know a number of people have had their mother and father in a daycare. And if you do have to put them at home, you know what? Sometimes that is what you have to do, and you
Yeah.
should not
That's
feel
true.
guilty about it
That's right. That's right.
because
That's
sometimes
sometimes
that's
that
the
is
best.
the best
Yeah,
you can do.
it's the
Yeah.
best you can do. Like when my
Yeah.
grandmother broke her hip, there's nothing we could do.
Yeah.
None of us could pick her up and do whatever.
Right.
And so that's
Right.
why we really work on my mother about being conscious and making sure she has her water and watching her about falling. But her new thing is to have a tantrum so she's falling out on the floor. And I keep
Mhm.
telling her, you're going to, if you break a hip, you will no longer be here because we can't take care of you. So
Right.
with something like that, there's nothing you can do. Or if they have different feeding tubes or whatever, sometimes there's nothing you can do.
It's
And you
true.
have to do that because you want them to be in a safe place where someone can take care of them.
Right.
So I talked to my brother. I said, my brother, the quote of the week. And so today his quote is use a smoothie instead of candy. So when you feel like you want, some
Ah,
candy, make yourself a nice little smoothie, and that would really help
okay.
you. So yeah, he's
Okay.
always coming up with something. I was like, where's my quote for today? He was like, a smoothie, because he said something else. I was like, people are vegetarian. He said, okay, a smoothie instead of candy. I think that's what, because he does that. He's very, very thin, and so sometimes in the evening, I'll see him like getting all this stuff on. He'll make a little smoothie for himself, and then so I
That's
was like, oh,
nice.
okay, there's something.
That's a good idea, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is.
Because I don't eat candy that much, but I'll substitute cookies.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, I'm really working on my sugar,
So
which is
tell them
really
thank
going
you.
down, and my blood pressure. So I am really working on that and losing weight and just trying to get myself in great shape. My mother's in really great shape. I think that's why she's still around and
Yeah.
exercise and what have you, but just working. And also cognitively, I'm doing all these brain tweezers, brain quizzes, not tweezers,
Right. Right.
quizzes on ARP and all kinds of stuff, and being socially active. That also helps you more than anything else to be socially active and have these
Yeah.
conversations,
That's right.
and it allows you to think and to go back and forth, and so that keeps everything kind of flowing in your brain. That is so
Mhm.
very important. But next week we're going to have Dr. Tamika Mosley, who's my herbalist, who's going to talk about herbs and different things you can do as well as you get older. So Jamila, I just really want to thank
Yes,
you for
sure.
being here, and Miss
Yep.
Sally, and she's the best storyteller. I still laugh about all the great stories that she's shared with me, and can't wait to get a chance when this COVID goes and we can, visit each other. But now
Yes,
everybody's locked
indeed.
down with our mothers and doing whatever. But
Yeah.
if you have to do it, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and so you just do the best that you can, and it's all good. So I just thank you all for being here, and Rose going to take us out, and I will see you all next week.
Thank you.
Herbalist, get your notes together. Bye.
Bye
Peace.
bye. Bye bye.